Live from the studios of WUFT Gainesville, this is the Evening News, produced, prepared, and presented by advanced students of broadcasting in the College of Journalism and Communications at the University of Florida.
Good evening, I'm Bob Mayer, and this is Channel 5 News for Tuesday, May 27, 1969. The Apollo 10 astronauts returned to Houston today with the information needed by the Apollo 11 crew for their attempt to land on the moon in mid-July. The latest moon flyers returned to the Space Center, where they were welcomed with hugs and kisses by their families and the cheers of a big crowd and a playing band. Scheduled next is a debriefing of the Apollo 10 crew and the compiling of the data they accumulated during their moon flight. President Nixon today unveiled his plan to have a government-owned corporation run the Postal Service, but Capitol observers say the plan has little chance for congressional approval in its present form. The House Commerce Committee tentatively agreed to strengthen the health warning on cigarette packages today, but it rejected a motion to require the same warning in advertising. The bill's sponsor said the issue will be fought out on the House floor. 15 Senate Democrats, headed by Senator George McGovern, asked Congress today to impose a 37% war profits tax on corporation excess profits. The move would be a substitute for extending the income tax surcharge. French presidential candidate Alain Poher said today that he will make sweeping changes in French policy if he wins the election on June 1st. Poher, considered the frontrunner, made public plans for a complete overhaul of French politics, cast aside much of former President Charles de Gaulle's policy of French grandeur. He promised to increase his nation's cooperation with NATO and to work toward building a strong Europe with Britain. U.S. B-52s struck at communist concentrations last night after a series of rocket and mortar attacks on United States bases. The bombing raids were carried out in the Central Highlands, the northern coast, and around Saigon. Military spokesmen revealed that there have been 5,000 communist violations of the demilitarized zone since the U.S. bombing halt in November. Actor Jeffrey Hunter is dead at the age of 42. He died today of injuries suffered in a fall at his Van Nuys, California home. The Gainesville City Commission last night approved the hiring of a traffic engineer. City Manager B.H. Farmer said the traffic situation in Gainesville needs professional attention. The traffic engineer's job was included in the 1967-68 budget, but last fall the commission axed the bill in order to balance that budget. City Commissioner Cortland Collier unsuccessfully fought the budget cuts at the time and suggested that the cuts come from another department. Farmer told the commission that the need for a traffic engineer grows greater with each passing week. He said under the new proposal, the traffic engineer would be administratively placed under the Public Works Department, getting a salary of about $10,000 a year. Mayor Commissioner Walter Murphy said that $80,000 was found from appropriated surpluses of the prior fiscal year, which would help pay for the new expenditures. Murphy said the money was found after a city audit. Top awards for top professors. With that story, here's Willie Rawls.
Here's Bob.
A last-minute attempt to convince the state Senate to consider a bill abolishing tenure at state universities failed yesterday in Tallahassee. Despite Senator Richard Deeb's pleadings, the bill remained lodged in the Senate Rules Committee after the group refused to recommend it as an emergency measure. The St. Petersburg Republican introduced his bill after the 45-day limit for bills to be considered in this legislative session, and only bills declared emergencies can be taken up now in the closing days of the current legislative session. A reform bill placing more controls on lawmakers while giving them more powers today cleared the legislature and headed for Governor Claude Kirk. The reform bill requires the legislature to go through the same competitive bidding standards of all other state agencies, justify all expense accounts, and place $300 limits on monthly intra-district expenses requiring vouchers. The body of a 57-year-old Newberry man was dragged from a 40-foot deep water pit today while about 55 spectators looked on. The victim, Etham Bell, was a service employee of Lime Products. Bell drowned in a 2-ton fuel truck when he apparently slid into the water about 7 a.m. this morning. Bell was employed by the plant for approximately 4 years. His brother-in-law, Rand Williams, said Bell had complained of chest pains last week and that he might have suffered a heart attack before the accident. And now with sports, here's Andy Brackhold.
Lows cloud the weather scene, and with that, here's Bob.
In the national weather picture, a spring chill sent temperatures to record lows today in the Northeast, while the Midwest sweltered in an unseasonable heat wave. Concord, New Hampshire recorded 24 degrees. In the Plain States, the temperatures were in the 90s. Blythe, California was the hot spot in the nation with a reading of 107 degrees. In Gainesville today, the high was 77, while the low was 68. The present temperature is 77 degrees. The relative humidity is 82%. There were 39 1/100 inches of rain reported, and the barometer is standing at 29.85 inches of mercury. The winds are out of the northeast at 10 miles per hour. The forecast for Gainesville area calls for partly cloudy skies. Tomorrow's predicted high is in the upper 80s, while the expected low will be 65 to 70. Thundershower probability 60%, and the winds will be out of the east at 10 miles per hour. Warehouse guard Arthur Stewart was shot to death last night in Hialeah. Assistant State Attorney Roy Wood said another guard found the body in a small guardhouse. Wood said a .38 caliber pistol and a 12-gauge shotgun were taken and that there was no sign of an attempt to enter the warehouse. 5% decrease in auto insurance premiums. That's what's in sight for elderly Floridians. State Insurance Commissioner Broward Williams told the Daytona Beach Rotary Club last night that the reduction comes as a result of a study into the driving habits of the elderly. The president of Merritt Chapman and Scott Corporation, David Reich, reported yesterday that multimillionaire financier Louis Wolfson has not drawn any salary since he was convicted of violations on the securities law. However, Elkin Gerbert, imprisoned with Wolfson, is being paid $42,000 a year for consultation services. And finally in the news tonight, the Apollo 10 astronauts are back on Earth, and everyone from space officials to the Russians seem pleased with their performance. Well, all except one. President of the Miami Bible College, Larry Poland, said the astronauts used, in his words, the language of the street when they swore during the time their lunar craft was wildly gyrating near the moon's surface. Poland said the astronauts should repent, in his words, their profanity, vulgarity, and blasphemy. There have been mixed reactions to this campaign against profanity. As Poland said, one guy told me, when I can walk on water, he will stop swearing. That's the news this Tuesday night. I'm Bob Mayer, Channel 5 News. Good night.
Here's Bob Mayer.
The meeting of the City Plan Board turned into a debate last night as a request by the Hospital Corporation of America was met by heated opposition from 80 Gainesville residents. Plan Board Chairman Dr. Clayton Curtis began the meeting. He said no official action could be taken on the corporation's request for the city to annex about 38 acres of land in northwest Gainesville. The land, according to Curtis, would be used to build a 187-bed private hospital. Regional representative of the Hospital Corporation, John Conroy, contended that the city should take action even though the county has jurisdiction over the proposed site. Attorney for the opposition, William Chandler, contended that the Hospital Corporation is trying to get around the county government by going to the city. Chandler is representing John Creighton, part owner of the disputed land. Creighton feels the city should drop the issue since it has no jurisdiction in the first place. A Gainesville policeman who posed as a member of the Radical Students for a Democratic Society was first witnessed today before the House Internal Securities Commission in Washington. 22-year-old Bradshaw Mallard was assigned the undercover job while still in training. Mallard reported to the House committee that many members of the SDS are admittedly communists. Mallard testified that SDS members threatened his life when it was discovered that he was in fact a policeman. The action came at a rally on the University of Florida campus. Past chairman of the university's academic symposium, Accent 69, has issued a petition calling for the firing of campus newspaper's executive editor. Past Accent chairman Larry Barron requested the dismissal because of a series of articles written in the Alligator by executive editor Carol Sanger. Barron charged that Ms. Sanger failed to maintain standards of accuracy, truthfulness, and fairness in a series of articles dealing with Accent 69's program and staff. Ms. Sanger had no statement on the charges. And now with a film story on the Housing Board, here's Cliff Schulman.
Black students on campus are upset about the arrest of one of three of their brothers. Here with a special report is Bob Mayer.
Black students at the University of Florida today charged that University President Stephen C. O'Connell is a confirmed racist and that they are now at war with him. Minister of Communications for Florida's Black Student Union, Rosalind Boyd, made the comments at a press conference outside the office of the University of Florida's Minority Affairs Director, Roy Mitchell. Preceding Ms. Boyd, Mitchell read from a memorandum to O'Connell that urged him to move swiftly in taking some positive action to make this university and the city of Gainesville a viable community for all the people. He said he was appalled at the atmosphere that prevails at the university as it relates to black students and black people. He called upon O'Connell to use his office to stamp out racism, prejudice, and bigotry wherever it exists, be it on campus or in the city. Today's press conference came after the Thursday arrest of 3 university black students who were charged by city and county law officials with aggravated assault of 4 whites in a supposed gun-wielding incident at 4 a.m. Tuesday morning. The blacks reportedly forced the whites at gunpoint to clean up trash that was strewn on the floor where the whites supposedly resided. President O'Connell was not available for comment following today's press conference, but issued a statement yesterday that said, in effect, neither he nor any member of the university community condones any person or group of persons attempting to settle grievances by force or intimidation of any kind. And now with more, here again is Ron.
Since he came out of the West to team with David Brinkley back in 1956, Chet Huntley has been our competitor, and what a competitor. But he also is a colleague and a good friend. Tonight, over on that other network, as we say, he's saying goodnight to David for the last time on their evening newscast, returning to his native Montana to build a resort, and I suspect perhaps to get involved in politics. As he leaves the daily broadcast scene, a giant departs the stage. For journalism and for ourselves, we hate to see him go. But that's the way it is. Friday, July 31st, 1970. Goodbye, Chet.
Bye, and good luck, Walter. Direct from our newsroom in New York, in color, this has been the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite.
And so, this difficult moment is here. In leaving this post after almost 14 years, I recommend to you the NBC Nightly News, which begins tomorrow. It'll be in the most capable hands of David, John Chancellor, and Frank McGee. I'll be watching with interest and affection. I might also remind you that American journalism, all of it, is the best anywhere in the world. I want to thank the entire staff of NBC, for this nightly broadcast has not been an individual effort by any means. And as for you out there, I thank you first for your patience, then for your many kindnesses and the flattering things you have said and written. More difficult to take, to be sure, has been your criticism, but that too has been helpful and in most cases valid. But you have bolstered my conviction that this land contains an incredible quality and quantity of good common sense, and it's in no danger of being led down the primrose path by a journalist. At the risk of sounding presumptuous, I would say to all of you, be patient and have courage, for there will be better and happier news one day if we work at it. And David, thanks for these years of happy association, and for being such an easy colleague to work with, and for all the kindnesses.
Chet, I too would like to thank all of those who tune us in and put up with us, particularly including those who write the nasty letters. McGee and Chancellor and I will be here every night, and we'll miss you. Last night, NBC had a dinner for Chet and gave all of us a chance to say goodbye to him, and as a farewell gift, NBC gave him a horse.
So, Chet, when you ride away to the west, to Montana, on your new horse, I will have to admit to at least a mild envy. And when you're out there under clear skies and clean air, maybe once in a while you will think of those of us still here, fighting the traffic, the transportation breakdowns, strikes, pollution, and wondering what is left that we can eat, drink, smoke, or breathe that will not kill us, and wondering what horror will be visited upon us next. In these years, I have often been stopped in public by polite, who knew I was either Huntley or Brinkley, but weren't sure which, and so they would ask. Well, from now on, when somebody stops me in the street and says, "Aren't you Chet Huntley?" I have an answer. It is no, ma'am. He is the one out west on the horse. I really don't want to say it, but the time has come, and so, for the last time, good luck and good night, Chet.
Good luck, David, and good night for NBC News.
Status board is what they call it.
What do you mean communications building, sir?
A call for help, one of the more than 240,000 received by the Miami Police Department each year on what has been termed obsolete and outmoded equipment.
All righty, I'll send somebody over there.
A promise for quick police response cannot always be kept under the current system because of the system itself. A report card must be written by hand and must pass through 3 human hands and 2 conveyors before its message ever reaches a patrol car.
Change it to a 40.
Even then, under the current setup, there is little way of knowing if the car called is the closest available car to the trouble spot.
945-26. Johnson Manufacturers.
315. Northwest 3 Avenue. Mr. Johnson. Just occurred. 2 white males in blue Chevrolet. 68 to 66. North on 3 Avenue 5 minutes ago. Age unknown. 1143.
This patrol car, though possibly not the closest, is now en route to the complaint. More valuable time has been lost. The proposed new police department, computerized from stem to stern, will be highlighted by an electronic dispatch system. A call for help would be fed directly into a computer and instantly relayed via mobile teletype to the police car nearest the complaint. A homing device in each vehicle will keep the computer informed of its exact location at all times. A 20-minute wait for police, a common occurrence now, would be cut to an average of only 2 minutes. But sometimes patrol cars are not enough, even if properly equipped. The proposed new police department would utilize 3 helicopters, which officials say would be invaluable in aiding the fight against the modern criminal. Each would be fitted with a revolutionary high-intensity light capable of illuminating an entire city block. If the police bond issue is approved, Miami will have the most modern crime-fighting facilities in the world. In addition to answering calls in a fraction of the time, Miami policemen could have at their disposal by 1975 electronic helpers that seem now only a dream. In Part 2, we'll take a look at the police car of the future. We'll look at the hopelessly bogged records section of the current police department and simulate just what modernization could do. Bob Mayer, Channel 4 News at the Miami Police Department.
WTVJ, Miami, South Florida's largest daily circulation. The Ralph Rennick Report with Bob Mayer, Harry K. Smith in Fort Lauderdale, and Bob Gallagher. Now here's Ralph Rennick.
Good evening, everybody. While the Dade's mayor's race continues, most other contests have been decided, and the candidates are now either contemplating their defeat or celebrating their victory. Channel 4's Bob Mayer reports.
These motorists are not honking because they're frustrated with Miami's rush hour traffic. To the contrary, they're signaling approval of a politician's stand. That stand taken early this morning by U.S. Senator-elect Lawton Chiles, not on an issue, but rather at this intersection, US 1 and Bird Road. Motorists were greeted by the now traditional Chiles trademark, khaki pants, no jacket, a big smile, and this morning, a wave of thanks. Typical of his campaign walk through Florida, Chiles has decided now to swing through the state again to show voters his appreciation over Tuesday's victory. Senator, I said it was a brisk morning. I think it might be downright cold. I notice you've got a sweater on.
Yes, sir. A little bit too cool for short sleeves this morning. I left Lakeland this morning about 5 o'clock, and it was awful cold when I left there.
Senator, how hard is it going to be to fulfill your campaign promise of returning to Florida 1 week in 4?
Well, I don't know how hard it's going to be. It's just like when you make a commitment, you're going to do something, you do it. It wasn't easy to walk the state. It wasn't easy to campaign, for 18 months. I just think that representative government, that's what it's all about. You have to know what the people want, what they're thinking, and you have to go back and report to them what you're doing.
What will you do during those periods? Will you walk again?
Well, I hope to do some walking, of course, not just between towns, because you won't see enough people. I want to try to go where I can find people and where I can be available to people so that they can, they can find me and they can talk to me. I found the great frustration with people is they always say that, after a guy's elected, they never see him again until he comes around. So I want to try to change that. And so I want to be available to where people can find me.
What's going to be your first priority as a United States Senator?
Well, of course, the first priority is, getting ready to get up there. I have a strong feeling of trying to do something to return some of the money and power back to state and local government.
How would you answer those that say you were elected by a gimmick?
Well, I think all campaigning, is a way of trying to go to the people. Television or spending $1 million is a gimmick. Having the slick actors is a gimmick. And if going to see the people is a gimmick, then I'm all for it.
Thank you very much, Senator-elect Lawton Chiles. It's been said that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. Certainly, Senator-elect Chiles could not disagree. Bob Mayer, Channel 4 News at Bird Road and US 1.
A heated public hearing, that story coming up.
In less than an hour, it will all be over. Election 70 turned out to be one of the most bitter off-year political struggles in history, both around the nation and around the state. Democrats are fearful they'll be blamed for increased disruption and violence. Republicans fear a backlash from soaring inflation and unemployment. Here in Dade County and around the state, voter response was intense. A heavy turnout began as the polls opened, and a steady stream of voters kept poll workers busy throughout the day. By midday, it became evident that a record was going to be set. A late afternoon check by Dade County Election Supervisor Martin Braderman shows that some 207,000 voters have cast their ballots, compared with 171,000 in the election of 1966. Indications are that some 64% of those registered to vote in Dade will go to the polls. One reason, perhaps, is that the voters are fighting mad. Many are disgruntled with Florida politics. How would you characterize this election?
Well, I think the last couple of days have been very vicious and unfair in many respects because it doesn't give the other candidate a chance to reply to charges made.
I think the campaign between Slade and O'Malley got a little rough, but I don't think the rest of it was anything beyond the kind of politics we're normally used to seeing.
Well, I think it's been very good. I've been well informed, much better informed this year than I've ever been.
Nobody ever touched on the issues. It was all slogans and smear campaigns, and you never really had a good idea why you were voting for somebody as far as the issues went.
I would love to see a clean campaign for election 1 year before I die.
Yes, it is just about over. The polls will soon close, and the people again will have chosen their leaders. For Dade County, a runoff election still remains for mayor and county commissioner, but for almost all the other races, the voters and news correspondents will have a long rest. Bob Mayer, Channel 4 News, reporting.
Hundreds of persons turned out for a day of advice on how not to pollute. An ecology fair at the First Unitarian Church in South Miami heard a host of speakers point out our most serious pollution problems and also gave some down-to-earth alternatives to the current mess. Channel 4's Bob Mayer reports.
In today's modern society, most people are almost forced to pollute a little. If you wash your clothes in an enzyme detergent, if you throw away your morning newspaper, or even if you throw away the plastic and rubber bands that newspaper comes in, you're polluting a little. The key to all this, apparently, is reuse, as evidenced by this idea booth. What exactly is this experiment here?
Well, this is an experiment that a young man did. All he did was take some newspaper and add water to it, and he mixed it up in a pot, and then he heated it a bit, and what he got from it was this paper again. And he found that while it's still in a more wet form, in a state where it's a little more able to be formed and molded, he molded things from it, and what he got was something like a paper mache, which could be used, anybody who's ingenious and likes to do these things.
I see, this is apparently a more sophisticated experiment. This also was originally paper?
Yes, all these samples here are cardboard made from recycled products, and quite often in your everyday life, thousands of items come in cardboard packaging, which was made from recycled paper.
Now, you've got plastic bags over here. What are you asking the public to do about these?
All right, these are plastic bags, which many people see them every morning that the Herald comes in. And not only are we trying to get people to recycle their newspapers, in other words, take them to the recycling depots, but also to get them to send these bags back to the Miami Herald and get the Herald to reuse them, because it's silly to just keep buying them and wasting resources.
And the key again is reuse. We'll take another look at waste reuse at this booth.
Generally, we're trying to show the process of recycling a community's waste into something more constructive. These bricks, for instance, are made from the residue from an incinerator. A community's trash and garbage is burned in the incinerator, and then what's left is ground up and mixed with clay and made into bricks that can be used in buildings or roadways and things of that sort.
Again, making use of the concept of recycling waste products.
Right.
What is this glass wool here? It says made from no-return glass bottles.
Well, it's just that. If we can get a glass recycling depot and the glass could be collected and ground up, this is one of the things that can be done with it, making insulation and material of that sort.
Thank you very much. The Ecology Fair also took on the problem of overpopulation.
We in Zero Population Growth are working toward educating the public about the problems of overpopulation, because we feel that we will not make any headway on the pollution problem until we start controlling our numbers.
What do we do?
We stop at 2 children per family, and if people want to raise more than 2 children, they should adopt children.
And I notice you've got these bumper stickers and books.
Yes, this is part of our educational approach. We want people to realize what the problem is, so we are trying to make them aware of the population problem through the literature, like the population bomb, through bumper strips, through buttons that we sell. We want people to stop and think about the population problem and where it's leading us.
Thank you very much. This Ecology Fair took on a mountain of problems. None of them are going to be solved by talk alone. Today's effort by members of our community, young and old, vitally concerned with solutions, hints that the outlook for our world may not be so bad after all. Bob Mayer, Channel 4 News at the First Unitarian Church.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's good. What is this?
Smoked shrimp with avocado dip.
Smoked shrimp with avocado dip.
Interesting consistency.
That's really
Excellent.
good.
Very good smoke flavor.
And that's
Very colorful dish.
Well, colorful. Okay,
Shall we
let's
eat?
eat. I'll take a little bit of each, please.
Same here.
Stroganoff to come. Oh, boy.
Thank you.
Well, most of them don't be ladies, see, so you can choose either.
I hate